Welcome. In. We have news of a possible coup attempt which went down in early January in Iran. Now, this is just now making its way out into the light of day, and we have protests that are still ongoing. They appear to have ramped up, at least for the amount that's made it out into social media the last couple days. We'll take a look at that as the United States still continues to mass forces in the region, and there's one plane in particular that I find particularly interesting, at least the number of them that we now have deployed from the United States, which we'll dive into a little bit later in the video. But first, we're going to take a look at this article coming from Figaro, which, again, I realize I'm probably butchering as well as most names, and I apologize. I'm trying. You can let me down in the comments of how I should actually be pronouncing it, but it is something I strive for. I just falling short of perfection there. So, according to several sources interviewed by Le Figaro, Khamenei was a target of an internal offensive within the system. This was led by former president of the Republic, Hassan Rouhani, to remove him just before the outbreak of repression on the night of January 8th. And this is when the demonstrations were at their peak. This goes on further over on open source intel. I was able to break the paywall here, and it's according to several Iranians and sources interviewed by the French paper. Rouhani led the effort alongside figures from the former government, along with the former foreign minister, Mohammad Zarif, as well as some clerics and figures inside the IRGC. A source familiar with the matter told the newspaper that the goal was to remove Khamenei from the decision-making process during the crisis. However, that attempt failed because it did not receive support from Ali Larijani, and I'm probably butchering that, who was appointed last August as the Secretary of the Supreme National Security Council, according to Le Figaro. The president was kept out of the loop to prevent the plan from being exposed, the report said. After it was uncovered, Rouhani and Zarif were allegedly placed under several days of house arrest, and reformist figures close to them were temporarily detained. Imagine it's probably not working out well for them now. This information came as Iranian officials confirmed that Larijani had been tasked with running the country just over a month prior in the event that any harm should befallen Khamenei, according to the New York Times. Since then, the 67-year-old Larijani has effectively been running the country. Again, I recognize that I am butchering those names, but very interesting that you have this internal strife at the very top, which definitely, if true, shows that there's fissures amongst the leadership. Now, Iran, there's a couple things that I think are interesting. Axios is reporting that the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, General Dan Kane, which we've had on the podcast earlier, told president and top officials that military campaign against Iran could carry significant risks, and particularly the possibility of entanglement and prolonged conflict, which I 100% agree. Operation Midnight Hammer 2.0 is absolutely possible in and out, but in order to achieve the objectives, which I've been saying all along, which are no nuclear weapons for Iran, no proxy forces, reduced ballistic missile footprint or utilization, and then they have to stop the oppression of the Iranian people. In order to achieve that, it's going to be very difficult to do with a just surgical strike. I was also reporting that senior Israeli security officials are preparing for any and all scenarios, but that Washington has finalized the operational readiness against Iran, and the decision now rests with the White House. Now, again, that's coming from Israeli sources. So, again, that could be a bit of a propaganda thing saying that the decisions of the White House, again, pushing the White House in order to make a decision, because it definitely seems like the Israelis are leaning forward. They would absolutely benefit from a destabilized Iran. Even if it was an incomplete regime change, which is what they want, it would destabilize the nation and destabilize one of their greatest enemies in the region there. So, yeah, undoubtedly this rests with the White House. But I would like to take a quick look at an eye chart here, which right now is an updated order of battle that's coming from Defense Geek. There are a lot of bases. There's a lot of iron in the Middle East. We won't go through all of this, but it's out there. The one thing that I do find kind of interesting is that one plane I alluded to. It's not the super sexy one, but it's this E-11A BACN. There are 5 of them that are currently deployed in the region. Perspective-wise, the operations when I was flying in Afghanistan or other places in the Middle East, I think this number typically is around 2 to 3 that are deployed. And this is a communications node, enabling data link and voice communications between all the players in the region. It does a couple other things, but if you look at just the sheer number of planes that have moved into the region, now I have 5 BACN aircraft. I believe the Air Force right now has 11. I'm not sure what the final total is, but this has been something that's been around for a while, and it's grown in its utilization from the Air Force. But we have 5 of them now that are forward deployed. And this could be for a variety of reasons. Obviously, we have more planes that are utilizing data link now. There's more bandwidth that might need to be provided. So you might need more of these versus 10 years ago, even when these were flying around and they were just handling data link or essentially text messages and some other minimal data transfer. But now we're looking at video feeds and things like that. We might have to have more of them out there, but now we have 5 that are forward deployed. Now, open source reporting puts the USS Gerald R forward, that second aircraft carrier in the Mediterranean near Israel, which puts it within striking distance of Iran. There is still a tyranny of distance here. And in our video yesterday, we outlined we have planes scattered across the Mediterranean and the Middle East. There's limitations with overflight and operations that, at least on the surface, what is being told to the public are no-goes, which create long distances for our fighters and bombers, cargo, tankers, all have to fly, which taxes the fuel, taxes the time, taxes manpower, and everything in between. The Gerald R. Ford, which we discussed on Ward Carroll's channel, has been out there for a while, and it's facing some significant issues when it comes to the basics, such as toilets working on the ship. A lot of toilets are shut down, and they cannot be repaired at sea. They're on a lengthy deployment, and they have bounced all around Europe, Mediterranean, Caribbean, and now back to the Middle East. So you do have 2 carriers that are in the region. Where they place it, who knows? 2 carriers doesn't necessarily give you sustained operations for weeks on end. Maybe a few days, maybe 5, 7 days kind of max before they have to start taking a knee in handling maintenance, repair, replenishment, and all the basics that go into just carrier operations. So while there is a lot here, if an operation does kick off and the objective is regime change, again, we don't necessarily know what the objective is should one kick off, but that has been floated out there. You are going to need sustained operations, and this air picture is going to have to increase, in my opinion, because the sustainment piece, when we're talking about Iran, it's a large country. The Israelis hammered away in the 12-day war on a lot of Iranian air defenses and infrastructure. They have had months to, in theory, rebuild, replenish, be resupplied from their allies. We don't know what that looks like. But again, the distance alone, the size of the country, and the operations required to conduct a regime change, unless this is just some miracle, it's overthrown and is won in a matter of days, is going to be significant. And if we look back at Operation Iraqi Freedom with a regime change, again, a similar type buildup with force posturing in the region. However, this time, we have not seen the boots on the ground being built up. In fact, we have seen a departure, at least from many bases that border Iran or near Iran, of U.S. forces, so backing them out. So again, a lot of moving pieces as this goes on. We'll keep you apprised as we learn more. And again, if you find this content valuable, leaving a comment down below helps us get shown to more people. We'll see you next time.